allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, the approval of minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Fast, second by Mr. Shinsky to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion? Mr. Fath?
Yes.
Mrs. Riddell?
Yes.
Mr. Shinsky?
Yes.
Mrs. Poforsky?
Yes.
Passes. Albert votes yes, passes 5-0. Next, the approval of claims.
Make a motion to approve the claims.
I'll second the motion. Motion made by Mr. Shinsky, second by Albert to approve the claims. Is there any discussion? Mr. Fath?
Yes.
Mrs. Riddell?
Yes.
Mr. Shinsky?
Yes.
Mrs. Poforsky?
Yes.
Albert votes yes, passes 5-0. Utilities, MCO report.
Briefly go through this. GIS, we've got nothing new. We're still waiting on McMahon to schedule training. NDOT roundabout and culvert replacement project at Highway 6 and 2 is taking a whole lot of time. Still haven't come to any consensus exactly what's going to happen with that. We've got a meeting tomorrow at 2 o'clock to discuss it with them. Everything's changed. It seems like every 2 or 3 weeks something changes with it. So hopefully we'll know more tomorrow. We did have Jeff Kellner from McMahon look at the old water tower. He took a look. He's going to review the inspection for work by Midco Diving on the big tower, and he will provide us a short report on his opinion on that. We're trying to begin hydrant painting this month. Standardized monitoring framework is the testing's been completed for 2020. Everything came back satisfactory. We did have a water leak over at the liquor store. One of those where we can't find the shut off. We still don't know where the shut off's at. We're still looking for it. So, one item I did put on there, and I should have, Indiana Finance Authority is requiring this year, the state law was passed, requiring a water loss audit be performed by every water department in the state. I'm getting some more prices on. I got 2 quotes. I'm getting another one from Emmy Simpson. I got one from Westville Engineering. We got one from Lockmuir also to do it. It's a huge hoop we have to jump through, and it's just going to cost money. So that's basically what it is.
For
Good idea to
Leaks.
They want to see how much water is not being billed, what goes through what gets billed, and what gets put out on the main line.
Why do they make us pay? We already have those readings.
It gets down to where you have to give them information on footages of laterals, footages of water mains, so they can calculate the water loss, the actual potential water loss through the piping. It's really a complicated thing, and it's really, anyway. So we had to do, tried to do it about 5 years ago, and apparently they didn't like the results they got from a lot of those, so now you actually have to have a certified person do these. And then every other year, you have to have someone else verify that that certified person did what they were supposed to do. So it's interesting. Wastewater plant, still have not received a quote from D&M or Marshall to install the flow meter out at the Nash Bench lift station. I will bug them again. There's been nothing new on the generator at the wastewater plant. Hopefully, I will try calling them to see when we get our, if we're going to get a refund on that. The Department of Corrections renovation project, we spent a lot of time on that. I've made several trips in Illinois to look at the equipment and that we can potentially use for that. The QA/QC testing for IDM was completed for the lab. We will submit results to that. IDM did inspect wastewater plant 2 weeks ago, and everything is satisfactory. That's all I have.
Okay, thanks. Any questions for Nathan?
I'm going to take off if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Are you planning on live streaming this?
Yeah, we're trying to.
There's a spot if you'd like to,
Coming back.
Okay.
if you'd like, there's 2 chairs here if you'd like to.
Well, there's more people out here than just two.
Okay,
Thank you.
yep, thank you. Sludge haul contract?
Yes. So, August 31st was the last day for sludge hauling contract. We had a 1-year agreement with Republic Services. We received a revised proposal for extending it another year. I didn't really want to go beyond that just because with WCC and potential changes to the plant, this may change things going forward. But the proposal for a 1-year term, they increased the haul charge from $348.50 was last year. This year it's $390 per haul. The per ton cost remains the same at $40 per ton. So overall, on hauling 1 load of sludge out, because it's about 18 tons on average, is an increase of about $52.50. So I don't think that's too bad of an increase.
And that's still like on demand, right? We call.
Yeah, we call and they come pick it up. So, the sludge hauling and disposal agreement, that remained the same. Doug had an opportunity to review that. That's something we worked out last year. So we weren't under their terms and conditions on their proposal. We avoid their standard boilerplate terms. So with that, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the Republic Services proposal dated August 31st, 2020, and it for $390 per haul and $40 per ton, beginning September 8th, 2020, and then extending to September 8th, 2021.
Okay, I'll second the motion. Motion made by Mr. Pfaff to approve the contract with Republic Services for sludge hauling for the year beginning tonight, September 8th this year and ending a year from tonight, or a year from today. Is there any discussion?
Mike, can you repeat the dollar amounts again?
Yeah, it was 390 haul plus, what was the tonnage?
$40 per ton.
Plus $40 per ton. Any discussion or questions? Mr. Pfaff?
Yes.
Mrs. Riddell?
Yes.
Mr. Shinsky?
Yes.
Mrs. Pethorsky?
Yes.
Albert votes yes, passes 5-0. Okay, we have the geotechnical engineering services. We have a letter here from McMahon and Associates. I'll paraphrase everything. McMahon sent out requests for quotations for geotechnical engineering services for the sewer project, which is core samples, soil stability, and things like that. They received quotes from 2 firms, K&S Engineers and Geocon Professional Services. McMahon summarized their proposals, and McMahon would like to recommend that we enter into an agreement with K&S Engineers. Did you review that, Doug, or have you looked?
I did.
You did? Is everything?
Everything's in order.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we enter in the agreement with K&S Engineers for the soil testing.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made by Albert, seconded by Mr. Pfaff. Is there any discussion? Mr. Pfaff?
Yes.
Mrs. Riddell?
Yes.
Mr. Brzezinski?
Yes.
Mrs. Pethorsky? Albert votes yes, passes 5-0. I have to sign that, I'll do it afterwards. I just seen if everybody had to sign it. Something we've been waiting a long time on. The wastewater treatment agreement between the town of Westville and the Indiana Department of Correction. This has been a lot of conference calls and phone calls and emails and everything to get this through. I'll hit the high spots. Basically, the state of Indiana, the Indiana Department of Correction is guaranteeing that if they no longer use our services, they will pay off the remaining part of the bond, so the town won't be on the hook for it, and also pay to mothball their lines if we are using them for something else, basically. Is there anything else that you want to add to that, Tom, or Doug?
I think so. I mean, keep on, it's a, what, a 20-year term?
Yeah, 20 years that,
They have, there's a minimum flow, I believe, in there as well.
the maximum flow that it gets reviewed. So it's going to be very beneficial to all parties, I think, is a safe thing to say. So I will make a motion that we enter into this agreement.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made by Albert, seconded by Mr. Fath to enter in the agreement for the wastewater treatment agreement. Is there any discussion or questions? Mr. Fath?
This thing, was it 4 or 5 years?
Yeah,
Been working on this, so it's kind of a cool to get to this point.
yeah.
A lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of ups and downs in it, but we're here.
I
Yes.
was about to say, is it really happening? Is this it?
I agree, okay.
Is this really
And
it?
this has been part of the comprehensive plan since it's been over 10 years. I think that IDOC had come to the town at one point, just for, I think, discussion, but this time they came again and they invested some capital in studying it. So it took a lot of work on both parties' ends to get to where.
And I mean, we have documents here within the 80s, late 80s, they were early, mid and late 80s, they were starting to toy around with this idea. So it's a good thing. Any other questions or anything? Mr. Fath?
Yes.
You sure?
Yes.
Mrs. Riddell?
Yes.
Mr. Mashinsky?
Yes.
Mrs. Pothorsky?
Yes.
Albert votes yes, passes 5-0. Anything else on utilities? Streets?
Reith and Riley has completed the sidewalk ADA compliance on Granite Street. That was the first steps tomorrow, weather permitting. They're gonna just send in the milling crew. I'll be doing Parkland Drive to Commercial, Sandstone to Slate Drive, and Granite Drive, west limit to Sandstone. Just milling, they said right now, because it's too wet yet.
Do any pay?
That's all I got.
And that's part of the community crossing grant.
Yes,
We've got.
got to be in compliance with the sidewalks.
Good. Parks?
Nothing new, it's just getting cold.
Yeah. Police department head report.
For August, we had 523 calls for service. 30 of those were assisted other agencies. We had 15 crash reports. We served the warrants. We did 14 gun permits. Gun permits are way up. And 39 traffic stops. And we served one warrant. If I didn't say that already.
Yep, one more I have.
The next thing that I had is all of you have a copy of a couple ordinances. One ordinance is the scrap metal ordinance that was adopted by LaPorte County. And the next one is a version of that ordinance that would apply to the town of Westville. These ordinances were authored by Detective James Lear and Detective Aaron Bannock. Detective Lear and Detective Bannock are both here. You guys want to step in if you want to say anything about the ordinance, kind of educate the town board and what they would need to know about it.
Sure. Basically, what we're trying to implement throughout the county, so we're going west in the county and now we're moving to each municipality. We're trying to get the county on a unified front to pretty much make it difficult for people to deal in stolen items throughout the county. So what the ordinance is designed to do is to basically hold businesses, secondhand retailers, pawn shops, scrap yards to a higher level of accountability as far as record keeping. It gets very detailed in the language, but it's pretty simple. Concept is taking IDs, knowing what's coming into your establishment. There's a small waiting period for property to be held onto so law enforcement can verify that it's not stolen. And if it is stolen, it's turned over to law enforcement at no cost to the victim. basically how the status quo is right now is if you lose something, your house is burglarized, say your wedding ring goes to a pawn shop in Michigan City, you gotta go buy that ring back. So you had your house broken into, had your wedding ring stolen, now you gotta pay $100 to get out of pocket. We're trying to end victimizing victims. So we passed it in the county. The big thing is gonna affect Westville, because you don't have a pawn shop yet, but you could at some point, that's why the language is in there. But with Paul's, and they're a scrapyard. What we're asking is documentation. Right now, Paul's doesn't take IDs for low-level transactions. So somebody could go take your fence, scrap at Paul's, and you really no record of the transaction. There might be a small description of their vehicle and the amount paid, but as far as who did it, you don't know. So what we are asking them to do is document all transactions with photographs and small descriptions of what's coming in. The most important thing about this ordinance is none of this language is new. All the language has been adopted from other ordinances that have been passed throughout the state. Marion County, Allen County, Anderson, Indiana, and St. Joseph County. So our neighbor to the, immediately to the east has adopted this very similar ordinance. So none of this is reinventing the wheel here. All this stuff is on the books throughout the state. Through large municipalities that passed unanimously at the county. We're currently working with Scrappy to hone in some of the language on our side, which we have adopted for the proposed Westville one, to make it a little bit more friendly around the business.
Does that include scrap like catalytic converters, right?
Yes.
Because that seems like it's a big deal. There's a request to expand that into a new property, and that just seems like an issue that it just.
It'd be everything that's going in would have to be documented, at least with a short description saying, hey, Joe Smith brought in catalytic converter, he's driving a red pickup truck, here's the license plate, here's how much we paid him. And we are asking for photographs, but we're not asking them to break down like, the whole load, like piece by piece, just a quick photo. What most scrapyards do is do an overhead photo of the load, that way, it just helps in the criminal matter. 99.9% of people taking stuff from the scrapyard are doing it legitimately. We're after that 0.01%. And being so close to Porter County, the ordinance refers to a third-party reporting system. What that is leads online. That's paid for by the Porter County Prosecutor's Office and the Sheriff's Office, so it doesn't cost the town of Westville anything. What that is a nationwide database that's accessed by over 15,000 law enforcement agencies. So if someone steals something in Porter County, sells it in Westville, and somebody from the Porter County Sheriff's Office or Valparaiso PD has access leads online, which they do, they'll be able to find the property. So I mean, you're just basically tapping into a network of nationwide law enforcement, and you're basically signifying that, hey, Westville's not the place to do business if you're stealing stuff.
Would you have any suggestions for how we can, there's a request for a variance right now at this business on 421. This catalytic exchange business is what they do right now. They're requesting a variance to put a 4x8 sign up in front on 421 and start a, they call it a recycling center on 421 in front of Tasco. So if we were to try to, put a stop to that, them achieving or acquiring this variance legally, what might be our complaint? The guy who owns it lives in Chicago in a very bad area. He's delinquent on his taxes in the county.
I would have to say, in order for him to run that business, he's got to follow the ordinances. If you guys adopt them to where he's got a photograph ID and pay out whatever.
Because he's taking property in and paying out money. That language is it's spelled out. It got passed through enough lawyers' hands. The language is very clear on what it is and what isn't, scrap metal and, but, it's,
And for you guys, it pertains more to scrap metal because you don't have a pawn shop. Like we use, and a lot of we say secondhand, which is like your gold, your jewelries. They'll take it in scrap gold. You see all those places that say coins, same thing. This applies to that also. Because a lot of times what these criminals do is they steal from you, which is all your grandma's jewelry or whoever, and you don't know what half the stuff is. They take it, they break it up, it's considered scrap gold. Well, then they take it in, so if it's not photographed, you can't identify it. So that's why we're requiring them to do all this, is what it amounts to. And that applies for any business that takes in any other property, whether it's trade, sell, whatever.
Mike, this does hit close to home. Just last year, we had a mother turn in her son's vehicle for scrap and forgot to take his plate off. And the plate ended up getting taken from the junkyard, put on a vehicle that was used for thefts all over the county. And these poor folks had police officers knocking on their door at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning for weeks until word got out that the plate had been stolen from the junkyard. So it does definitely hit close to home.
Okay. We have ordinance 2025. I'll read it by title. An ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Westville, Indiana, establishing regulations for the operation of precious metal, valuable metal, scrap, metal, pawn, and second-hand retailers. I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance 2025 on the first reading.
Second.
Motion made by Albert, seconded by Mrs. Riddell to approve ordinance 2025 on the first reading. Is there any discussion? Mr. Pfaff?
Yes.
Mrs. Riddell?
Yes.
Mr. Mashinsky?
Yes.
Mrs. Pethorsky?
Yes.
Albert votes yes, passes 5-0. I will make a motion that we suspend the rules and adopt ordinance 2025.
Second.
Motion made by Albert, seconded by Mrs. Riddell to suspend the rules and adopt ordinance 2025. Is there any discussion? Mr. Pfaff?
Yes.
Mrs. Riddell?
Yes.
Mr. Mashinsky?
Yes.
Mrs. Pethorsky?
Yes.
Albert votes yes, passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
gentlemen.
guys.
Thank you.
Next.
The only other thing I had, Mike, is, after our executive session earlier, I'd like to ask the town board to move forward with, the transition from our agency being the marshal's department and moving towards a municipal police department.
And I would be in favor of that. So I
Just
don't.
direct the
think we need-
attorney to,
Yeah, we don't need any motion or anything, but I
I don't think so. I mean, if there's a consensus to instruct me to begin the process and drafting, that's all
yeah, and that's what I just did.
I need.
So I'm done talking, Mike.
okay. We have ordinance 2024, which is an additional appropriation ordinance. It's a housekeeping that puts the money into the community, for the community crossing grant. That we approved it. It's just to make sure that it is put where it's supposed to be and there's never any question in the future on it. So we have ordinance 2024, additional appropriation ordinance, whereas it's been determined that it is now necessary to appropriate more money than was originally appropriate in the 2020 annual budget. Now therefore, section 1, be it ordained by the town council of the town of Westville, LaPorte County, for the expenses of the taxing unit following additional sums of money are hereby appropriated out of funds named and for the purposes specified, subject to laws governing the same. The fund name is Community Crossing Grant, and its major budget classification is other services and charges, street repairs. This is road money here. It's not general fund money. It's for $160,000. I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance 2024 on the first reading.
Second.
Motion made by Albert, seconded by Mr. Mashinsky to approve ordinance 2024 on the first reading. Any discussion? Mr. Pfaff?
Yes.
Mrs. Riddell?
Yes.
Mr. Mashinsky?
Yes.
Mrs. Pethorsky?
Yes.
Albert votes yes, passes 5-0. I'll make a motion that we suspend the rules and adopt ordinance 2024.
Second.
Motion made by Albert, seconded by Mr. Mashinsky to suspend the rules and adopt ordinance 2024. Is there any discussion? Mr. Pfaff?
Yes.
Mrs. Riddell?
Yes.
Mr. Mashinsky?
Yes.
Mrs. Pethorsky?
Yes.
Albert votes yes, passes 5-0. Miscellaneous? Do you have a report, Jace?
I do.
Okay.
I'll take that off for a second.
Yep.
First of all, I want to apologize to Mrs. Mercer and Mrs. Riddell.
Usually I send these to you guys in advance. Today I was very long-winded with it and didn't get done until right before we got ready to come down here. So I can send them to you guys tomorrow, if that's okay.
I thought you were gonna say that it was too much space to send it. The
Yeah.
file was too big.
Yeah. So August 2020 calls, known town limits, Virginia Township 17, Jackson 11, one mutual aid for a total of 38. Which if we look back, that's pretty much our consistent number, anywhere from 30 to 40 a month. Year to date thus far, the town at 132, New Durham Township 146, Jackson 70, 12 mutual aids with other departments, for a total of 360 calls. The only happening that we have going on right now, we tentatively had the ISO audit scheduled for October. It's been actually pushed back until November just for some scheduling conflicts. Along with that ISO audit, we're also gonna need some water flow capabilities, hydrant maintenance stuff, things like that I'll get hold of Nathan for. I've got his email, his contact. That's not a problem to get that stuff. As far as the report, that's all I have.
How'd the hose testing go? I saw you guys.
Hose testing went very well. We lost 6 rolls of hose, but happened to be some of our oldest stuff. So it's pretty much, in fact, the report actually stated that we're status quo with what the norm is.
I didn't hear any explosions or anything like
Yeah,
that.
no.
Okay, thanks, Jason. We'll get that to Lori then.
I do have a little bit more here.
Sure.
Some of the questions that we've been asked. I know when Matt and I sat with you and Mr. Riddell, there were some questions that are commonly asked, and we've heard them as well. And I kind of want to put it out there in a public forum. We don't get a lot of visitors at the firehouse, so this is our best way for it. I do apologize, some of these answers are kind of long-winded. One of the questions that's always been asked is why we're not more visible in the community. Example, police department streets, even you guys as town board members, you're out there, you're mobile. Our biggest thing is, honestly, we're strictly volunteer. The best way I can tell you guys is we are married to our pagers. So this pager that I have on my side, as well as every other number that we have, is basically a second wedding ring for us. Once that call, 911 call goes into dispatch, they send us an audible tone as well as a brief description of what the call is. At that point, our members, leave their beds, cookouts, birthday parties, holidays, meals, plans, date nights with spouses, and we've even had some people in cases where they got to leave work to go. I know that's one thing I was very lucky many years ago when I worked for the town that I had that opportunity to still run fire calls. Average number of trainings, calls, meetings, truck checks, volunteers, approximately at least 40 to 100 hours per month of every member that we have. The only thing that we get back out of this is a yearly, it's called our fuel and clothing allowance. It's a $250 state mandated allowance that every member gets. On top of that, we also use what we call a point system. Each member gets a point for every every call, training, truck check, monthly business meeting, as well as 1 point for every hour that they do a special project at the station. That special project has to be pre-approved. It's not willy-nilly. It's actual things that we need done, painting, cleaning trucks, whatever it may be. Valuable point relies on a few items. Total call volume for the year, total members on the roster at the time, and obviously the most important thing, as you guys know as board members, is the funding that's remaining at the end of the year. For example, last year, I'm going to put my information out there as chief with 209 calls, 30 trainings, 40 hours of work time, 12 business meetings, and 12 chiefs meetings, 6 for LaPorte County, 6 for Porter County, and lots of phone calls, text messages. My end of the year check was $4,000. That's what we're doing it for. Granted, we don't do it for the money. We would all do it for free. I don't think anybody that's out in that parking lot right now would hold us to the money. But I want it to be known, obviously, we're going to budget stuff, all that stuff kind of lines up together. It's not a lucrative business. I am 4th generation down at the firehouse. Yeah, there were a couple before me.
I know Grandpa Zeman was.
Chopper, Irwin, Dan David, and then me.
Foreman Pugh, I think, would be a relation.
I think so, yeah.
He was something in.
Wow, that's another generation. You're dating yourself a little bit, Mike.
I just heard about him. I didn't know him, honestly. I just remember the name.
So when we start to break that down, our average call is roughly 30 to 45 minutes, and that's for our medical calls. Obviously, accidents, fires, you know, I've been at fires where we were there for 8 to 10 hours. I remember years ago when the mulch fire caught on fire out the prison, or mulch pile, we were out there for 12 to 14 hours. So it all depends on that. When I actually broke down my hours, it kind of shocked me when I started to look at it, but with the calls alone, it's 104 hours. Basically, I came up to about 400 hours that I volunteered just to go down there. And that's what I'm coming up with as we go through. So it's, again, not a huge thing. When we start to look at the aspect of paid departments versus volunteer departments, persalary.com, I looked them up on there. A battalion chief in the state of Indiana that handles the budgetary stuff like that I'm doing down there makes $83,000 a year. So it kind of puts it in a little bit of perspective for us. Another question, why does the fire department run EMS calls when the county ambulance service is already covering them? And that's a real simple one for us to answer. Every department in the county and LaPorte County EMS have a standing mutual aid agreement. Meaning fire departments have agreed to aid the county system with manpower, any assistance needed, whatever they need at any given point. One advantage of having this system is, quite frankly, that we help them and they help us. We help them with the manpower, they help us by providing training back to us. They also cover our supplies, anything that we would use during that medical call. So that medical aspect of it comes at absolutely no extra cost to the taxpayers. Just what they pay for the county EMS service. But what do we do there? Once we're on scene, we begin to assess the patient, obtain a baseline set of vitals, gather important information to pertinent to the situation, as well as obviously begin life-saving CPR when it's needed in a timely manner. That's probably one of the biggest things that we're there. That initial patient contact, that initial gathering of patient medication, patient medical history, so that when the ambulance gets there, it's a quick, we get them on the cot, we get them out there, and we get them to the hospital as soon as we can. Obviously, you guys know, cardiac arrest, strokes, things like that, time is of the key essence. The other reason that we do it is Westville is in the area. We have every mode of travel through it at some point. We've got railroad tracks, we've got toll roads, we've got different roads, everything in there. As the county runs right now, we are covered by Wanata Base. We know there's two very busy railroad tracks between Wanata and Westville, which is going to add response time for that EMS service. Usually, what will happen is they will contact another ambulance at that point, but that ambulance might be coming out of Michigan City, it might be coming out of LaPorte, so you're still looking at an additional time frame by the time they get stuck and then dispatch that additional ambulance. And for my last one, you guys obviously kind of answered a lot of this with the budget talks, but how is the department operated and funded? That's always been a huge thing, and it always amazed me. I guess it's something I grew up around. I always kind of knew how it works, but a lot of people don't. So obviously we're our own corporation. We're contracted by the town, as well as New Durham Township and Jackson Township. As Mike pointed out in the budget hearing, town has their fund. Both townships have their contract money as well as the cumulative fire funds that they're able to draw out of. Unfortunately, the town doesn't have that ability. But we are a separate business in the way we operate, much like a grocery store, gas station, other companies that perform contracted services for the town. This allows a lot of different benefits for New Durham Township, the town of Westville, and Jackson combined. Services based off of the contracts, we own and maintain all the vehicles, which is a key thing. When we start looking at some of the other departments, it might be the township that owns them, or even a municipality, but essentially they would have to operate that. Some contracts we get, that's the money that we have for the year. We in turn and establish a budget with fire service guidelines and line items throughout it. We have an executive side of the department that handles, that's our board of directors, handles all of our financial decisions, all of our business-like decisions, and then the line officer side that handles our actual every day-to-day operations. That was kind of why Matt was in here earlier. He's that side of it. Now on the line officer side, I came in and give the operational support. This wave operation saves countless tax dollars per year, allows townships to focus on placing additional funding into other areas of the jurisdiction.
i.e. parks, police, whatever it may be, it's just a benefit to it. Kind of give another example of it, the average median salary of a firefighter in the United States from 2012 to 2019 was $50,000. So still, we're way below that with what we do it for and provide that same service. One thing that was discussed earlier with the level of service that we provide was per the last ISO audit. We were rated at a 6Y, which I'm not real familiar with a lot of them, but I do know that the 6Y was equivalent to the city or the town of Chesterton. So as a volunteer department, for us to provide that same level of service as a fully staffed paid fire department was amazing. That's all I have.
A question you always hear, and I'll give it to you. We probably know the answer, but maybe we don't. First responders, you know, some of us grew up watching Emergency,
Right.
you know, where they hung IV and everything. The first responders, what can they and can't do, I guess is.
We go in different levels because we have EMTs and we have first responders.
Okay.
Basically, I'll be honest with you, the easiest way to tell you is everything you see on TV, throw it out the window.
It's that way on baseball movies, I find all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Not everybody gets a home run every time.
Right.
Unless you're on White Sox. But, so a first responder is our lowest level of medical treatment. A first responder is able to obtain vitals, do normal splinting, bandaging, things like that. The only difference is an EMT, the state actually just started to open up some of their mandates. Now there's certain meds that we can assist with. Before, I could never assist you with an albuterol inhaler or an EpiPen if you got stung by a bee. They've opened that up for the EMT level. As far as IVs, that all goes to the paramedic level that the county will actually perform.
I'm surprised the EpiPen because, I mean, if I have an allergy, I can give myself.
Right.
I guess it's like diabetic though. You can't give me a shot, but I can.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and they also just opened up, we could never do glucose. The way we operate is we fall under the county direction. So there's a state level mandate, and then the county supersedes that because they're a little bit more stringent. So they just started to open up some of their stuff as well.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Jason.
You're welcome.
Do you have anything on there, Eric? Is there anything, I think we got everything signed and all that fun stuff.
On the back line.
Oh, okay. Is there, yes, David, I'm sorry.
Question, is Pasco in the town?
No.
So it's more of a county problem than a Westville problem.
Tasco, yeah.
About this new scrap expenditure.
Right, the county ordinance covers that.
We don't own that property.
No, they don't.
They sold it.
Goes down the railroad track, or the old Mona. The limits. Down that far.
Is that the fenced-in area next to Casco where all those jump fires and everything are right now?
That's exactly it.
Yeah, I went by there and saw a bunch of stuff out there the other day, vehicles. This gentleman here, did you have something you wanted to? Yeah.
Hi, I just wanted to tell everyone, I'm running to be your state representative. That's how I'm here. I'm here to kind of learn what's important to you as a community. I believe that all of the smaller communities outside of Michigan City have been grossly underrepresented at the state level. So that's why I'm here, to learn what you need, and assuming I get elected, what can I do for you?
Do away with the restricted fund.
Okay.
Yeah, the MVH restricted fund.
MVH restricted fund.
Yep.
Okay.
That's the big star right there.
That's the big one. And could you change the amendment to the Constitution?
What would you like changed?
The circuit breaker, the
Okay.
property tax.
Yeah, good luck on that one.
Right.
But yeah,
That's the big one, is the restricted.
That's the
the
big
MVH
one,
restricted fund is killing.
Yeah, it's killing everybody.
Okay. I will tell you that I can absolutely learn more about it and look into it, and I am not a career politician. I was a truck driver, I was a correctional officer, real estate agent. This is all new to me, but I'm doing this because not to get, into the political scene, but to actually bring, like I said, representation to the smaller communities, because I don't think anybody hears us. I mean, at all. You see all the major stuff, that's covered, but I don't see any of our, from what little I've looked, I don't see,
So who's your opponent?
Pat Boyd. My understanding, again, she seems like a really nice lady, but she doesn't attend the Pines, Chesterton, anywhere, and right on her site, it says District 9, Michigan City. That's what she cares about, and it's been apparent for the time that she's been in office that that's where her focus is, which is unfortunate, because Michigan City, I live in Michigan City, but it's a tiny fraction of the area of the district, and it's only half the population. There's a lot more to District 9 than just Michigan City.
Well, for the record, Pat has been here for us, so she's met with the Westville County Council before.
Okay, fair enough, that's what, I'm going by
Yeah,
what
fair enough, okay.
No, by all means, I will be corrected. I'm just going by what I've seen and understood. So it's good to know that I'm incorrect on that. Thank you.
She's very well aware of what Westville has going.
Okay, good.
So, and get something for the fire departments too, get that. Got another separate fund or something.
Put in a word to them about the restricted fund, Jason.
Yeah, town fuel fund would be great.
That's right.
Yeah.
That wood, you don't want that wood. That's what we need.
Cumulative firefighting fund.
Okay.
Town fund.
Because that's a separate rate.
Yeah.
In fact, that'd probably be just as good as the restricted fund. Okay, is there anything else? Thank you for coming tonight, sir.
Absolutely.
Is there, and thank you guys too. Is there anything else? I will make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Albert, second by Mrs. Riddell to adjourn. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Being none, meeting adjourns at 7:43.